From The Australian, here's what's on the front. I'm Kristen Amiot. It's Wednesday, January 29. Athletics Australia has lashed the Western Australian Institute of Sport for its treatment of a pole vault coach who blew the whistle on sexual assault allegations. Chair Jane Fleming and CEO Simon Hollingsworth have called for the WA body to better support whistleblower Paul Burgess and reinstate his training privileges. New Zealand's Resources Minister has launched an attack on banks that refuse to finance mines. On the eve of the release of his government's mineral strategy, Shane Jones also backed the Fijian PM in saying Australia's not to blame for climate change. Those exclusive stories are live right now at theaustralian.com.au. Science Minister Ed Husic says a new Chinese AI platform comes with national security concerns, and he says he'll take advice from intelligence experts on any potential threats. DeepSeek sent shockwaves through the tech industry and financial markets this week. So, what is it, and where's it sending the AI race? That's today's episode. Last week, on the frenzied first day of his new presidential term, Donald Trump announced a multi-billion-dollar commitment to artificial intelligence infrastructure.
These world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate, a new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately.
About the same time, on the other side of the planet, a Chinese company called DeepSeek unveiled an AI model it says can compete with market leaders like ChatGPT for a fraction of the cost. The world's financial markets reacted with shock and awe, with Nvidia, the world's most valuable public company and the maker of the computer chips most American AI models rely on, bearing the brunt of it.
Well, shares of Santa Clara's NVIDIA fell hard this morning on the popularity of a new Chinese artificial intelligence advancement.
DeepSeek is impressive enough, but it made people wonder, do you really need those NVIDIA AI chips?
That's the whole question, right? I mean, ignoring the fact that a number of reports say that creators...
I think it caught everyone off guard, even the best and brightest in Wall Street and in Silicon Valley.
Jared Lynch is the Australian's technology editor.
They thought the US was miles ahead, not even miles ahead, thousands of miles ahead than China. They had a trade embargo on Nvidia chips, the world's most advanced chips. And then the fact that China could produce, at a far lower cost, mind you, an AI model that is almost on par with ChatGPT was extraordinary.
The AI model released by DeepSeek is called R1. It's a generative AI platform similar to ChatGPT and Meta AI. DeepSeek is backed by Liang Wenfeng. He's the manager of the $8 billion hedge fund Highflyer. The company says it forked out just under 9 million Australian dollars to train R1 and says it did it without Nvidia's top-of-the-line computer chips. By comparison, the most recent iteration of ChatGPT cost around $100 million to train before it was released in November. And DeepSeek's model is open source, meaning other developers can adopt and adapt it for their own purposes, hence the financial panic. Jared, was that market reaction proportionate, do you think?
Time will tell. There have been some analysts that have called BS, to put it politely, on DeepSeek's claims. That is, that it only cost $5.6 million US to train this model, whereas some US models have cost billions to train, because there's just not enough data to show, okay, how much does this cost to train and how much do the data centres cost to run DeepSeek? So that's all unknown at this stage. At the moment, the market's caught up in, wow, China's actually delivered this AI model. What risk does that pose to the big American companies that have invested billions in creating this tech? But the thing is, we've got to rewind the clock back a little bit to the 50s, to the 60s, even the early 70s off the space race, the US against Russia. That didn't result in a pullback of investment. I mean, competition rarely does. It becomes a battle. Billions of dollars, trillions of dollars get poured into gaining the upper hand, and that is what we're going to see in the AI race. What the response has been more broadly is this is very much now game on. China is saying to the world that it can compete and at a far lower cost. In fact, that's almost embarrassing to the American companies, which have spent billions and billions of dollars of investor funds on developing and training these sophisticated AI models.
DeepSeek's founders say they've tested R1 against models from OpenAI, which owns ChatGPT, and they say it holds up. Jared, you've spent some time in the last week playing around with DeepSeek's R1 AI model. What did you think? Is it actually good?
Yeah, in the most part it is. It works just like ChatGPT, in some cases even better. It provides lengthy, balanced explanations to queries. For example, if you say if Trump is a good leader, it'll say whether he's a good leader is subjective. Here's some arguments for, here's some arguments against, here's some neutral arguments, and this is a conclusion. So it sort of directs the user to make up their own mind. The problem is its AI veers into what I call autocratic intelligence. And by that I mean it acts as an extension of China's Communist Party, because if you ask any questions about China, it adheres to China's censorship laws. So if you say, what is the Tiananmen Square massacre? It'll say, sorry, that's beyond my current scope. Let's talk about something else. So it's very much a pro-China model, or, as I like to call it, autocratic intelligence.
Do you think that in adhering to the communist government's rules around censorship, DeepSeek could actually count itself out of this race before it's really even begun?
Well, I don't think many people will realise, because on the whole, it will act like a ChatGPT. Why it matters when people ask questions about China is that is where people are getting their information. I mean, we used to have libraries, and then Google came along and people got their information from Google. And now increasingly people want their information via AI summaries. And the fact that it is pro-China, I think that's almost going to become irrelevant, because if it gets what they call the multiplier effect, where it gets a huge user base, people won't realise that they're actually being fed a pro-China message. And that is a really, really big concern.
Coming up, what next for the AI race? Back in the White House, an advisor to President Donald Trump reportedly said the cheap generative AI model released last week by DeepSeek was one of the most impressive breakthroughs he'd ever seen. In many ways, it's an escalation in the competition between the United States and China to win the AI race, a fact Trump was upfront about at the Stargate announcement.
This monumental undertaking is a resounding declaration of confidence in America's potential. What we want to do is we want to keep it in this country. China is a competitor and others are competitors. We want it to be in this country, and we're making it available.
So, as DeepSeek races to the top of app stores around the globe, what happens next? Here's Jared Lynch.
Well, it shows now that the US no longer has the monopoly on AI development. In China, we've seen a strong entrepreneurial culture, which has created some of the world's biggest companies. Just look at Alibaba, for example. And now people are saying, wow, we can do the same with a bit of nous. There is another way to be a disruptor, and we no longer have to have the deep pockets of Silicon Valley. Anyone can now take advantage of this technology and be a David taking on the Goliaths.
Elsewhere, and especially in parts of Europe, DeepSeek has been welcomed with open arms by developers who say it's put them in a position to compete. And just lastly, Jared, on the flip side, does that risk creating a marketplace where smaller, already established operations actually can't compete, or is that just natural selection?
I think it'll be a bit of both. We're going to see some smaller operators be weeded out for a variety of reasons, call that natural selection. And then we're going to see a whole heap of smaller operators come up in areas that otherwise we had never thought of before, as we've seen with DeepSeek. So we are entering uncharted territory, almost like the Wild West, and it's been even made more so by Donald Trump's decision to rescind an executive order of Joe Biden's, which gave the government too much control of AI. So the message from Trump is telling US companies to go forth and innovate and do it quickly. I've got your back because I want the US to be the AI leaders. And that means we've all got to buckle up.
Jared Lynch is the Australian's technology editor. You can read all our reporting on artificial intelligence and technology right now at theaustralian.com.au.